Love your hat.
Thanks. Got that hard hat on, ready to build. Let's go. Yo, Kaspador, how we doing? Kaspador from Kasplex.
Escape, I would say Kaspador from Cas community and Kasplex.
Sweet. You're an OG, man. We love you. You know, all the work you've done, it's really incredible. Kasplex, like this whole launch of the testnet, I mean, this is pretty crazy. I mean, everything that's happened and how fast it's already launched. And I mean, mainnet could be as soon as, I mean, I'm just guessing as soon as like 2 weeks, perhaps. Do you have any alpha with that?
Of course, I know the roadmap and the timeline and everything, but and as I was saying to, I think it was Monday Space. We cannot give a proper and fixed due date because in
Yeah,
development you never know what might happen.
true, true.
So I cannot say it's 2 weeks, it's one day, it's 1 month, it's 2 months. But stick around.
No, that's good because we really need that testing. So for people to test, like, I mean, this is incredible. So it just works with MetaMask. Everyone could just, I don't know, probably the Caspa community isn't used to using MetaMask, but this is, I mean, Ethereum users, this is exactly what you use. So you make a wallet, and Casplex has its own network that you have to add a custom network for this test net, right?
Yeah, so the way this works and what everyone needs to do, in the tweet Kasplex sent, um, there are all the details needed for the connectivity. So the process is like this: you open a MetaMask, and not necessarily a MetaMask. All EVM wallets are supported. So you can use whatever wallet you are used to it, and you just add a custom network to it by in MetaMask, for example, you go to Networks, Advanced, and add a custom network. You fill in the details, such as in the RPC, the testnet name. You can put whatever name you want, and you have the Explorer link. And you just add the custom network, and then you switch over that custom network from your wallet, and that's that. You are live on Kasplex Layer to testnet.
Wow, so that's awesome. So it's EVM compatible, but it's not Solana compatible. Like, Solana has its own virtual machine, so it's not.
Yes, that, yeah, Ethereum EVM.
Okay, cool. So I think like Sonic probably, other things. I don't, all those EVM chains, I guess. So something else that I had a question someone asked me about. So the whole ZK is not yet. Is it yet integrated into Casplex Zero Knowledge Proof, or is it still in development? Is this going to be released for mainnet? Do you know?
So we like to say that Kasplex is ZK ready, but obviously this is topic to debate, meaning that some people will say, but we don't know the architecture of the new ZK zero knowledge proof OP codes that will be delivered on Kaspa Layer 1, right? So Kasplex, by calling it zkEVM, means that there are let's say, two main messages here. One is like it will very fast support Kaspa ZK OP codes whenever they will be out and ready and developed by the Kaspa core team. So that's one. And basically, the Kasplex will just stand by for whenever those will be available, and then fastly integrate and adopt them. And then you can have ZK on a layer 2 without the actual ZK on the layer 1. This means that you can generate and settle the proofs off chain, so off Kaspa, and just send back the confirmation, right? So don't, but this is not, so this is proper ZK, but not in a decentralized manner. It's like more like you can generate and you can validate the proofs, but this is not like built on top of the layer 1. So this is the second pillar, if you want, of the Casplex, right? One
Yeah.
is being ready for the actual OP codes, and one is being ready for off-chain ZK.
In this off-chain ZK, this is, I guess, the precursor to Caspa implementing the opcodes.
I wouldn't say that. It's just another way It's just another way in having ZK on layer 2.
Hmm.
They
And
they're not tied together, but if you want to offer them, you could theoretically do it by settling them off chain.
gotcha. And that settlement off chain is basically the optimistic rollup, while the opcodes for Kaspa ZK is the based rollup. Is that an accurate like way to define it, or not
No,
really?
because the optimistic and based are basically related to referring to the sequencing of the transactions.
Oh, okay.
So if you do the sequencing on layer one on Caspa, and you rely on the sequencing from layer one, that's a based rollup. But if you are not doing the sequencing on the layer one, for example, Arbitrum, right, or Base or other layer twos, they're using their own sequencer or even third-party sequencers, and then that's an optimistic one, right?
Right, right.
And that's not even decentralized because you never know what's in that black box from the third party or in their own sequencer. You don't have any control, so you don't know how if that is being manipulated or not. But the base rollup gets the order of the transactions based on the layer one as the miners are doing it.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really cool. If there's two ways you're gonna go about the ZK, have the two options, and I guess having it all on chain would be the optimal route, but you're gonna need to have Caspa to implement those opcodes.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be the desired solution. Well, I'm not sure because I don't necessarily have all the technical details, so I'm not sure which way we will go for the time being. But for what I can say 100% for sure is that once the Kaspa zkOP codes will be released, Kasplex will integrate them and adopt them in a heartbeat.
Awesome. I guess the nodes will need to be updated and all that type of thing. Kind of like a hard fork, or not really a hard fork, but
I've reached out and because I had I had the same question. So I saw some tweets saying that once Caspa will have the zkOP codes, a hard fork might be needed. And then I asked different people and I got different opinions. Some said like, no, the hard fork will not be needed, whilst others said, whenever there is a new OP code introduced, you need to have a hard fork. So I guess for this one, we need to wait to see what's the solution, and maybe we can even raise a discussion on Caspa Discord and ask, let's say the developers or let's say the technical guys that can shed some light on it.
cool, really cool. So regarding like the transaction flow, so the sequencing is happening on Caspa. Can you walk me through like how the settlement actually happens? Is this going to be settled because it's EVM compatible? Does it settle the transactions on Ethereum itself, or does it settle them on Caspa? I'm not sure if you can clarify it.
So, no. So, those will be settled on Caspa. We are not settling anything on Ethereum, and you cannot. I wouldn't say. I would say you cannot do that because, no offense, Ethereum is, I would say, slow versus what Caspa is doing, right? So, relying on another chain to settle the transaction is not the what was the what the purpose is, right? So basically, the whole goal here with the layer one, layer two, and Kasplex building on top of Kaspa is obviously to want to showcase Kaspa's capabilities in terms of settling transactions and data availability and showcasing the fast speed that Kaspa has. So at the end of the day, it would be the other way around. All other layers too out there should or could settle their transactions on Caspa. So imagine a layer two from, let's say, Ethereum, settling their transactions on Caspa because Caspa is fast, is proof of work, is scalable, and it's secured, right?
Yeah.
So it's not us going to another chain, is other chains coming to Caspa.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the way it should be. Because I had that question because I saw a graph by Eager Labs. It seemed like they had the option to be able to settle on another layer one. So I wasn't, that's probably a question for them. Um,
Mm,
so that's
yes,
great. Yeah, I'm not even sure if you know much about if you're following their how they're setting up their protocol. It seems like they're kind of keeping a close eye on how Casplex is running it because I mean this is incredible. This is exactly what I've been really looking forward to. It seems like everything's
uh,
through Caspa, based on Caspa, on chain, zk.
yes, but obviously I'm watching what Tigra is doing, and they're doing a great job as well. But there was a conference, I think back in March, and I had a speech here, there in Romania. It was Eastern European crypto conference, and basically this was the purpose of the discussion and the presentation that I had, not showcasing, let's say, discussing on how Kaspa Layer 1 can be used by all other layer 2s in settling transactions on Kaspa. So I do not know what Igra is doing in terms of technicalities, because I myself am not a very technical person. So if I'm saying stupid things today, you should take them with a grain of salt. I'm mostly representing Casplex in terms of translating, if you want, what the developers are and the core team is doing to the normal users like me and others to properly understand what is next, right? But in terms of the line codes and, let's say, the architecture and everything besides that, behind that, sorry, it's something that sometimes is it's even hard for me to understand or to discuss.
Same. I have I feel like I'm a little bit in the same boat, but even much less technical. Um, all good. I totally understand. So something else that I was wondering about, and I don't know if you could be able to explain the why a bridged version of Caspa is required. Like why this wKAS is required, and why you can't just use the native CAS. Like why does there need to be a bridge in these two different coins?
What I can say is that we don't need another coin to exist, another token, sorry, to secure and to pay the gas for Kasplex transactions. We will rely on the wrapped Kaspa version. Everyone can basically, it's a smart contract, right? Everyone can lock in, sorry, a native Kaspa and then mint wrapped Kaspa, and the other way around, burn wrapped Kaspa and release the Kaspa that has been locked in the smart contract. Why is this needed? I cannot go into the details in terms of technicalities, but this is like on each and every layer 2 out there, right? Is there any everyone has a wrapped version of that for the layer 2. I cannot say in terms of architecture and technicalities why this is needed. So if you don't mind, I can take this offline and revert to you, at a later stage. Sorry.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I figured there's a reason for it. Yeah, and regarding like this bridge mechanism, with all these minting and burning and creation of tokens, it always brings into question like, could there be a security flaw? Like, could there be something at risk with this bridge? I mean, I feel like with bridging, with staking, there's always some sort of inherent risk of if it gets hacked, what can happen? Is there any way such a smart contract could even get hacked? If it gets audited by other parties, any ways to minimize or mitigate such an event?
So, yes. So imagine this. Nothing is, at the end of the day, nothing is bulletproof, in my opinion, right? Be it Web 2, be it Web 3. You can always, there might be, sorry, not 0 days exploit, and that can find some kind of vulnerability in the code and, let's say, hack something, right? But all these smart contracts and the builders, because at the end of the day, the dApps will be developed and delivered by third party. Kasplex is offering the base for everyone to build on top of it, right? So it's offering the infrastructure and the mechanism, but whoever is delivering something and developing something on the layer 2 will deploy their smart contracts, will have their web applications, and they will have their own servers, so on and so forth. So For example, and I'm not going to say names because I'm not promoting or endorsing any project. There is this dApp that is building on Kasplex, saying that all their code is being audited by a third-party company, very well respected in the crypto space. So basically, having this in mind, you would be more confident saying that using that specific dApp will have low chances of being hacked, right? But what I say to everyone, what I tell to everyone is like, even if something is audited, it doesn't mean that it cannot break at a certain point in time, or it might not, or it's bulletproof and there are no flaws. So there's nothing that you can, let's say, 100% prevent in terms of happening. What you can do is, of course, do your best and not the best, do everything that you can to protect the community and make sure that whatever you are delivering and when you are, so to say, playing, but you're not playing, but when you are managing the user's money, you have a very, very, very high you are very, sorry, confident in what you delivered. So people can use it without any risks. But no, you will never be able to 100% say this is bulletproof. You never know what will happen tomorrow. You never know if someone will find a hack or a door to exploit something.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I totally agree with that. Even if it's audited, it's like, I mean, you have all these different decentralized exchanges that are going to come online. Zealous Swap, and they're out on the testnet right now. So you just never know. But yeah, so they just gotta always play things carefully, especially at the start. I feel like. So this reorganization for Kaspa block DAG. So that's a something that Casplex will need to handle. And can you go a little bit into like the security of such an event? Like, I'm not sure if you know much of the time frame of if it does roll back, like how off, like within what amount of time would you would this like happen? If say if you do a transaction, you have to wait a little longer just to make sure that everything is successful and no reorg happens, because this reorganization. I mean, I'm not sure what's the potential security issues with this.
So, as I was saying and mentioning previously, I'm not that technical in going to such details, but what I can tell you is that this was indeed raised as a potential, let's say, issue for the layer 2. And at the same time, I know that Kasplex developed something that is going to handle any such reorganization without affecting the users, right? So I cannot go into the details again, and apologies for this, into why this is happening and when it could happen and what would be the impact. I only know the fact that this has been raised as a potential issue and has been addressed with the development of the layer 2 from Casplex. So again, sorry for not going to the details, into the technicalities. I think there are way better people than me to address this without me saying something that can be totally wrong.
All good, all good. Like, I mean, the way I understand it, it's just there's no way around the fact that a reorg could happen. I think it's a very rare event. Like, say the miner, the different one chain gets a little longer than the other, and the reorg has to happen. But if it does happen, I think it would just be very very fast, because it comes down to the DAG tips, and these DAG tips. I mean, this is difference of time of like zero point 0.1 millisecond or zero point 0.1 second. If it does happen, it'd be very fast. Or that's just my understanding of it. So, and the fact that
I
they're gonna
think
have like something that tracks in real time, I think it's everything's gonna be pretty secure. I'm sure exchanges would have to wait a little bit more time for the DAG to get longer for just to make sure no rollback does happen. But for the users, I'm sure there's not going to be really, nothing's going to be really noticeable. But I don't know.
you never know, yes. But to be honest, oh, these are very, very good questions. And Casplex Telegram for the time being is not so crowded. So there is this space there where we can raise such questions and let's say if you want to call them concerns. And I'm sure that some core developers will jump in and answer.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely we'll do that. And something else, like regarding running your own node. I mean, this page is not yet released, so I'm not sure if you have any ideas how this will happen, and even incentivizing node operators. I think I asked like one of the devs in DM, and he said it's going to be these node operators will be rewarded or incentivized with wKAS, perhaps. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. But
But
do you know anything?
the question is, do you need to, and people will get maybe upset with this one, but do you need to incentivize someone to run a node for you? You would say yes, because you are going to be more decentralized, right? But at the end of the day, everything settles and is being generated and sequenced on the layer one. So I would argue here, why would someone need to incentivize someone else to run a node just to prove that we have X amount of nodes and that then the let's say the network will not crash, right? And if a node or 10 nodes are shutting down, you still have, let's say, plenty others in picking up the transactions and pushing them forward. So, um, to answer your question first, that page is still under development in terms of what is needed to run your own node, space, and computational power. And that is one, and it will be released very soon with all the details needed on if someone wants to run a node, they can do it by following those steps. For the time being, it's being written. And on the part of incentivizing them, again, this is my personal view. This is not Kasplex view, but my personal view is like, again, why would you need to incentivize someone? Because of decentralization. But this means that, for example, I can buy, I'm just giving out random numbers. I can buy and host 100 nodes, one person, right? And it will show like, oh, okay, we have 100 nodes. We are decentralized, and we have fallbacks in case one of other nodes or one or more nodes are failing. But at the same time, I can just decide to shut them all down if I want to, right?
Yeah.
So this is my again my personal take. Incentivizing doesn't necessarily mean that you will have one for one, one for like. You are incentivizing you, Scape, and then you are incentivizing me, and you run a node, and I run a node, and if you fail, I have my node back. No, I can just run 100 nodes, 1,000 nodes if I want and steal all the steal, so to say, grab all the money and the fees, and then if I choose, I can just shut down my farm of nodes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a great perspective. I didn't even really think about that very much, and it's something else that is it's not just for Kaspa, Kasplex, but all these other cryptos. They all have their nodes and reasons for nodes, and but that's a great perspective. And even for Kaspa itself, like Kaspa has nodes, and it doesn't even incentivize its own nodes, for the block tag, because it doesn't need to. And like you were saying too, there's even I guess risks associated with a single person running all these nodes just to take all these rewards, and is it really necessary? Because people will also be incentivized to run their own node just to ensure the decentralization and security of the Kasplex layer 2. So they would be it's in their best interest to run a node to support the layer 2 and make sure it runs smoothly. So that's something else that you don't
I,
do you really need to reward them? And if you do reward, what is the drawbacks of such rewards? Is there going to be bad actors with that coming up? And
I'd
it's a really interesting
argue
take.
I'd add something else on top of this. If you are a DApp builder on Kasplex Layer 2, I would say you are 110% interested in running your own node, not to rely on others' nodes, right? So if you have something that is being built on Casplex and you start connecting to this random, I would call them, let's say, nodes, you rely on a third party to guarantee that your DApp will function, right? But if you run your own node, be it incentivized or not, then you have the guarantee that if you maintain it, you will have at least one node up and running forever or for whatever time you need it, right?
Yeah.
And So this would be another, let's say, if you want to call it incentivize. And I'm talking this from experience in terms of nodes, because there are so many, uh, I would call them directly scam coins that are one selling nodes and giving the impression that you matter and you're going to have a ROI in, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then they just disappear after they are selling the nodes, be them virtual nodes or actual, let's say, PCs or some small black boxes that you plug and play, and you are the proud owner or proud owner of a node, right? So I believe we can discuss about this hours, but again, to sum it up, documentation will be ready, all the details and the technicalities will be there. And in terms of incentivizing, I'm not sure if this has been not discussed, if a decision has been taken, and if it has, then it will be for sure um, playing properly to the entire community.
Yeah, yeah. I think I know which token you're talking about with their own node, and yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And now that you bring that up, it's a little bit of a sketchy business model. But that's something else I love about Casplex is that it's not like a company. It seems like nonprofit, so they have seems like they have Casplex best interest at heart, and the miners as well. So that's pretty cool. I know a lot of I think backers of Casplex are also like the miners, with like Ice River. I'm not sure if they still have such backers, if they're being able to help fund research or not. But
So Casplex, as you were saying, is a non-profit organization, meaning that Casplex will not issue and will not gather, let's say, not issue a token to raise funds needed for the operations. And the operations are extremely expensive, I can tell you for sure, in terms of running machines, developers, so on and so forth. But Casplex, as I was mentioning, is a non-profit organization being backed up by obviously KEF, Kaspa Ecosystem Foundation. And as you mentioned very well, and trust me, and because even if you cannot trust me, but even because obviously I'm part of the team, and I would say anything that is that sounds great, right? But I've been in so many meetings with the team, and I see their focus. Their focus is not on how do we actually generate fees, how should we do a pre-sale, how should we gather 1,000 or 1 million or $10 million. Never ever in our discussions, like literally never, money were never brought in the discussion, right? And this is a very nice thing, because imagine the developers and everyone, they are focused on doing their job and actually offering the possibility for adoption by deploying the layer 2 and having the dApps built on layer 2 and showcasing Caspa. And the ultimate goal for Casplex and for us is like onboard more users, showcase Caspa's possibilities, and let's say superior technology, and everything else will flow naturally. So yeah.
oh, that's beautiful. That's goes to show that the roots are really strong with Caspa itself, and I think that's how it really should be. And if that's the case, then you build these dApps, you build this layer two, the dApps come, and it's going to really power Caspa, and that's going to be the money maker. Caspa is going to be able to rise to a much more fair value and compete. And with these other technologies that honestly I'm surprised are even such highly valued. Um,
You know why they're highly valued. You have VCs, you have groups pumping tons of money and that's and they offer the possibility of, let's say, incentivizing the users, right? So imagine tomorrow, I'm building a, let's say, DEX, right, or whatever protocol, and I want to generate a token. I need liquidity for that token, right? And then let's say I have liquidity. Let's say I have $100,000 or 1 million for liquidity, but then I want to airdrop some to the users because this is going to bring more users and they will use my application. Then you need money to contain all the cell pressure. So it's in my opinion, it's a vicious circle, and those projects that you are mentioning, they have huge backing, and this is why. being fairly launched, is quite difficult in obtaining or achieving the same results as a new layer 2, let's call it, or even new project or proof of stake coming up tomorrow, and you already has an evaluation of 3 billion, 10 billion.
Yeah, yeah, spot on. You couldn't have said it better. That's why organic. It's going to take more time, but it's going to be more strong, and I think that's exactly where Caspa is and where it's headed. Something else. Also a question regarding this relayer. So it seems like it'll be able to accept transactions directly from Ethereum. So for example, if you're running, I mean, is that right? Like you could run, for example, a DEX on Ethereum, and it can run it through the relayer and send it to Kasplex Layer 2, then to Kaspa, or straight to Kaspa.
So sending transactions to layer 1 via Kasplex can be done in two ways. It can be done directly, and it's called without a relayer in a canonical way. The payload is being sent directly to layer 1 via a wallet that supports this, right? So you don't need to rely on a relayer. But then there is the relayer part where you can obviously use that as well. And for that, you have all those EVM, Ethereum EVM wallets compatible, right? So you can, because imagine this, you are building something, a dApp, and you want to send the transactions directly to the layer 1. For that, you need to use a wallet that support to the layer 1, meaning Kaspa. For that, you need to use a wallet that supports these transaction directly, right? And as far as I know, there are only two wallets, and I will not name them. One is already out there in the Kaspa ecosystem supporting this, and another one is in the works, and it will be launched very soon. But this will mean that the users will need to actually install on a new wallet, maybe with a slightly different UI and UX, and this can cause, I would say, I wouldn't say frustration, but this can be a hiccup in terms of adoption. Versus using the standard MetaMask or whatever EVM wallet is out there, you just plug and play, and you as an end user, you don't really care if it's like canonical transaction, so directly to the layer 1, or if it's proxied, right, through a relayer, because the end user will not feel anything about that, right?
Yeah.
So there are these two ways, each with their benefit and cons and pros. But Casplex is offering these two scenarios, and depending on who needs to do what, they have the possibility in using the direct or the relayer part.
So right now in the testnet, it's using this canonical transaction, or is it uh,
It's a relayer.
it's the relayer? Okay, because
Yeah.
once I tried, I don't know, I think I tried doing some sort of transaction with MetaMask, maybe with like Zealous swap, and it required connection to Casware wallet.
As far as I know, Casware is supporting the canonical part, meaning the transaction directly to the layer 1, but I'm not sure what you're talking about and why that was requested by the text.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was something to do with Zealous swap. But yeah, that's great. MetaMask directly, so provides the avenue for people that are more used to that, and a lot of people are. MetaMask, I'm sure Trust Wallet as well. So like these transactions through MetaMask, can you be using any sort of Ethereum dApp?
You can
And
use uh, you can use all. I wouldn't say all. So the way Kasplex and the layer 2 built by Kasplex is 100% compatible with all the Ethereum EVM, right? So in theory, you can just take a smart contract. Now, if you want, you can take a smart contract from Ethereum, compile it, and deploy it on Kasplex layer 2, right? So it's like I like to call it copy pasta. You take a smart contract, you adapt it a bit if you want to, and just deploy it to Kasplex, and it will work. The main message here, or the key message here, is like for the developers that are used to it, Solidity and Ethereum smart contracts and everything, they can just duplicate, or not duplicate, replicate their products directly on Kaspa with, I would say, minimum to no effort. So it's like that easy to deploy a smart contract on Casplex that already exists. You don't need to learn a new language, you don't new programming language, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just take the smart contract, adjust it to for your needs, and then deploy it on Casplex, and it will work. I would say out of the box.
Wow, that's incredible. And I really wonder if if especially the things that are open source, are people going to be doing this migration themselves, or is it going to be these other applications from Ethereum coming over to this Casplex, Caspa environment? I'll be wondering if people are going to take it in their own hands and
Hmm.
move things over.
I'm sure that with time there will be more and more and more applications being developed to port anything that is already running on chain to work on Caspa as well. But this will take time. So for the time being, with the adoption, you have a few teams here and there that they are building or deploying the same smart contract. They are doing minimal adjustments. Maybe they are developing. For example, I'll give you an example. You can take a faucet that is working on, or whatever the pronunciation is, for faucet from Ethereum, and you deploy it on Caspa. You change a bit the number, the variables, the tokens, and everything, and it will work immediately, right? So this is like very, very easy, and everyone can do that. But then the more complex part of things will take time, and the developers that are going to build complex solution will, in my opinion, for sure, appear and develop on Caspa. But again, this will take time. I do not know. Maybe it's going to be 1 week, or maybe it's going to be 3 years, or maybe never. I guess we need to wait and see.
Yeah, yeah, things are going to take time, adoption, and all that. And something else that was seeing about the Casplex KIWI, this is also incredible. I mean, it seems like the SDK, software
Yes.
development. What is this? What does the K
Software
stand for?
development kit.
Yeah.
Software development kit. Yeah.
Ah, Kit. Okay. So this is honestly awesome, and the use cases of this. So for builders, but it makes me even want to look into it with a multi-sign, multi-sig wallet. This is pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
and you have some examples there, uh, uh, use cases if you want, and some code there for again for the exemplification, which is showcasing at the end of the day the capabilities. But those are only a few. So basically, the SDK, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just use that, and you are ready to go integrating and developing your tools with Caspa.
Yeah, I mean the framework. I mean this is basically everything I feel like you may need. I mean multi-sig, even message subscription. This is pretty cool. Subscribe to blockchain events. So it's definitely something that'll help builders get their basically start running almost on Caspa. And it's not just doesn't just support Caspa, but it's also I see the KRC20. So it seems like it's going to be easily integrated with Kasplex Layer 2.
KRC20 is by definition a layer 2 itself. And Kasplex basically built the layer 2 with the integration of KRC20 in mind, and vice versa. Meaning that the end goal for these two are to be very well interconnected and to work natively, if you want, without any, let's say, friction for the user. So Casplex is building the smart contract layer 2 with KRC20 in mind. So they can operate and integrate easy, and user can, let's say, just decide whatever he needs to do without any issue.
So with this KRC20, these tokens, are they going to be required to bridge over? Are they going to have to migrate over? Are they going to be able to stay as KRC20 without changing their, inscription data, I guess?
Depends on the project owner, because at the end of the day, no one is forcing anyone to do anything. So let's say you have a project that is now running on the KRC20 protocol, and layer 2 now, Kasplex layer 2 is available. So you as the owner, you will take this decision. Should I um uh, should I keep my token on KRC20, or should I port over to the smart contract? And even if, let's say, the owner decides that he wants to port over, sorry, the project owner decides that they would like to port over, maybe the end users will say, I don't want to port over. So no one can force them to actually burn their KRC20, or let's say transfer their KRC20 from protocol to the Kasplex smart contract. They can just say, I don't want to port them over. But obviously, this can be achieved, or let's say this can be incentivized by the project owner saying all the liquidity will be ported to smart contracts. So you need to migrate your tokens if you want to have liquidity to be tradable, right? Obviously, it's your decision if you want to stay on KRC20, or maybe the project owner is saying we are not porting over, or the liquidity will be on the KRC20. So at the end of the day, basically depends on the community, the project owner. What matters is that Casplex will facilitate this migration back and forth, and the projects can decide by themselves if they want to do that or not.
Interesting. So maybe the most passive way is just to keep it the way it is, and people would be able to. I'm guessing they have to bridge their tokens, even if they still want to stay on KRC20 and not to migrate over. They could just use a bridge, or not even have to bridge in order to trade on certain, say, DEXs.
Yes, each project owner will potentially offer the option of a bridge, and that bridge can be forever, let's say, available. So let's take this example. Project A is saying, I want all my users to bridge their tokens from KRC20 to the smart contract, layer 2. For this is the build that this is the bridge that you can use, and you can use it for the rest of our time, let's say 100 years, right? Or others might say, this is the bridge, you have 30 days to bridge over. If you are not bridging over, then the bridge will close and you'll not be able to do anything with your tokens. Because again, the liquidity will be moved on the layer to Kasplex smart contract. So again, this basically is a project owner decision. What matters is that the possibility of doing that will be there.
Okay. So bridging would be required in order to use a DEX, for example, or
Yes, I would say so because and the new token will be issued there because you need to have a smart contract there. So you need to work with the supply. You need to understand when someone is bridging over, you need to burn those tokens from KRC20 and then issue them on the smart contract, and vice versa, burn them from the smart contract and release them from or mint them on the KRC20. So again, it all comes down to what they decide to, but yeah.
so like technically they could just leave it the way like for users that want to bridge it over, it's no problem, and those that want to keep it in the KRC20 layer, then they could just keep it, or like I mean, could both
Yes.
work simultaneously? I guess.
Exactly, exactly. But then there will be the problem of the again of the liquidity, because
Yeah.
if you have a token on let's say on KRC20, because you don't want to move it, just your personal preference that you don't want to move it, then you might be in a situation where you cannot swap it or trade it or do anything with it, because there is no liquidity. Or again, maybe there will be a different, let's say, team that is going to say, "Oh, we're going to provide liquidity here on this, and we will stay on KRC20." I've been in this situation, and I saw a project doing this, and there were some, how should I call them, OGs, if you want, of the initial token, and they decided to remain on the initial protocol because they were like. Rebels, if you want, right? And after 2 months or so, their tokens were all worthless because there was no liquidity there. It doesn't mean that this will happen on KRC20. Again, it's just a preference of whoever, let's say, decides on this one.
Yeah. And regarding like this, even bridging to Casplex Layer 2, so say for example, even Eager Labs, they build their Layer 2. Like down the line, is this bridging? Is this going to still be prevalent, or is with the base rollups, is it going to be more seamless with a zero knowledge base rollups, like this integration between layer twos where you're not going to necessarily have to do this like bridging between different layers.
I don't know how Yggdra's layer 2 will communicate with Kasplex layer 2 and the other way around, so I'm not sure about the details there. But for sure, there will be someone that's going to find a solution to actually port over from different layers if you want to. But again, I'm not sure if there is a direct communication on how this can be achieved or if it's achievable by default. I really don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like I might even have to rely on Kaspa opcodes on Kaspa, especially with like the ZK opcodes. Perhaps with those, it'll be able to provide that seamless integration. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly, but I feel like that's maybe something down the road that could be looked into with more development. But
It's endless possibilities for sure.
no, that really helps clarifies things, and I feel like a lot of people maybe aren't so sure what's going to happen. So this whole bridging, definitely something to keep in mind, and for the communities of different projects, think about because even say for example, like how that would affect existing tokens on certain exchanges. I feel like those certain exchanges that liquidity is still as the KRC20. So if the bridging does happen, like what's going to happen to those tokens on that exchange?
That's a very, very valid point, and this depends on, let's say, the how fast a checks is going to integrate Kasplex layer 2 into their checks. And the SDK that we were discussing previously does exactly this, facilitates the work needed by the checks to integrate the Kasplex layer 2 into their checks, among other things, right? So at the end of the day, if you have a checks that is, I would call it, let's say, lazy, and they require like 6 months to integrate, and you already port over your tokens to smart contracts, then you have two possibility, three scenarios. In fact, one would be you don't have any liquidity where to trade, and that's a bummer. Or you have a DEX and you provide the liquidity and people can swap in that DEX without any issue. And the third one would be you go to those checksets that already integrated Kasplex layer 2 and you provide liquidity and everything there. So your point is very valid. I guess it's like again depends on the checks availability and the response time in integrating Kasplex layer 2.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely interesting to see how they those exchanges may respond, and even like I'm just wondering if they would be open to having both KRC20 and Kasplex Layer 2 integrated at the same time. So if you want to withdraw or say example deposit or withdraw, it would allow for both or either. I don't know.
It's like on Ethereum, no? When you withdraw it from, let's say, from an exchange, you have the option at the withdrawal saying withdraw to Ethereum directly, or withdraw through Arbitrum, or to Base, or to whatever. So your point is again valid. Maybe they will support both protocols, and they will ask you where do you want to withdraw to the KRC20 or to the layer 2, be it Casplex or Igra.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. See how they let's see just see what they do. And it's gonna probably take time. These exchanges, I feel like they may act slower than the rest of the ecosystem, but it's
Depends, and you know why? Because if this, again, this is my personal opinion. If that brings them money, and if they can integrate and list a token with 1 day effort instead of spending, let's say, 1 month, they will happily embrace the new layer too, because they would know that they can list any new token like immediately. They don't require huge investment in terms of development. So
true. Yeah.
uh, this is something that we need to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. And the Kasplex Testnet Explorer. This is also really really cool, and I see there a lot of different tabs here. So different stats, APIs. This is really interesting, and
This is all-in-one solution. Obviously, this is a testnet, and some data is not loading. I sent a tweet, I think yesterday. I don't remember when, and
yeah,
there are known issues. We know what is needed to be fixed. But the good message here is that there's nothing critical that cannot be solved, and there are no, let's say, bottlenecks or showstoppers for the development of the mainnet. So the Explorer that you are showing is, I would say, almost the same with any other explorers that the end user is used to it, like Ethereum scan or BC or Binance Smart Chain Scanner Explorer. They are all look the same. They provide the insights on the transaction, on the blocks, on the method that was applied for a transaction, and then you have the APIs to use if you are a developer and integrate, and you have everything there. But again, this is again in the testnet, and the final version will have all the functionalities there.
And it's awesome too because it doesn't just support Kasplex Layer 2, but also Kaspa itself, right?
Yeah.
Cool. It was an excellent discussion. Thank you so much for everything you were able to clarify and for give your details and your opinions and all
Uh,
that. Really
Yeah,
awesome.
sadly again, because of my, let's say, not so proper well understanding of the technicalities, I wasn't able to provide maybe some answers to questions that some people are looking to receive answers to. But the documentation that is already out there should be, at the time for the time being, sufficient. And once the mainnet is out, having everything else that is missing, the documentation such as what is required to run a node, will be explained there. And in the meantime, for any questions, as I was saying, let's hop on Telegram, Kasplex Telegram, ask them there, and for sure the core devs will jump in and provide their feedback.
Yeah, will do definitely. So yeah, I mean, just to close a comment, you got the faucet. Put in your wallet, your MetaMask wallet, and you start testing. You have Zealous swap you could test. Not sure if other dApps are currently running on Kasplex.
Yes, there is another one. There are multiple, in fact, but there is another one, KFC.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
called yeah, they
KFC.
are running on top of Kasplex as well. And then there is another one that I think is going to launch this week from Nacho team, something like Pump.fun
Oh yeah, like the
type of,
Moonbound thing.
yeah, Moonbound, exactly. That's going to run on Kasplex. And there are people that are building different dApps behind the scenes without the need of the community to test it. So there are quite a few teams. Yesterday, after 48 hours, I think there were like 1,000 unique wallets doing transactions, and I think there were like 20,000 blocks generated.
Wow.
Speaking of which, Casplex is not generating blocks every second or every minute. Kasplex is generating blocks whenever there is a there is a transaction identified from layer one that needs to be included in a layer two block. So if there is no transaction, to put it in a different, let's say, perspective, if there is no one is doing any transaction, there will be no block generated on Kasplex.
Yeah.
So this is a really nice thing and a beauty of it. And this development of not generating blocks, empty blocks, consume quite a lot of time from the developers.
Oh, that's awesome. All that activity even right now. That's definitely a good sign. And you guys even on the developer and the internally, really testing. I saw your one tweet doing some really hardcore tests to break it. Put it to the limits. That's really necessary.
Yeah, and to be honest, yes, Chris deployed yesterday a script and basically attacked the layer two with all the, let's say, with all his power and knowledge, trying to break it and see if there are if there are points of failure that need to be fixed. And that was very useful because if he didn't do that, then imagine on mainnet someone would have deployed that and start attacking layer two, and then everything would, I wouldn't say crashed, but maybe got dragged and slower, right?
Yeah.
So I like the way he thinks and how he tries to see the corner cases. Although this is not a corner case because the, let's say, attackers will be there always, but the team is well into it in trying to uncover any potential failures.
Yeah, that's great. That's really necessary. I guess one final question, regarding this Kasplex new VM, how how this could integrate with Kasplex Layer 2 or Kaspa, and what it could mean for the entire ecosystem. I'm not sure if you have any info on this. Sees under development right now.
That's a Kinder surprise if you want.
Okay,
There
no
is
problem.
there is a nice package around it, but no one knows what's inside, right? So not even me, to be honest. So we need to wait for Casplex. There are multiple, let's say, teams in Kasplex. There are not like two, three people doing this. There are different teams doing different stuff on Kasplex, and one of the teams are building this new VM, if you want. But to be honest, I have no idea what's being built there, and I guess we need to wait and see.
Awesome. I love surprises.
If
Oh
they are
man,
good, of
I'm sure it's
course.
going to be great. Seems like my guess is going to be really, oriented toward, the Kaspa VM, and just like Ethereum has their own EVM or their own virtual machine. So this, I'm just going to guess it's going to be very much integrated with Kaspa. I don't know.
I really don't know, to be honest. I would love to tell you, but I have no idea. So I'm on the same boat. We need to wait, both of us, to see what's there.
All right, will do. Definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So yeah, I mean, everyone could just go on there on the testnet, start testing things out, try Zealous Swap, KFC. They have their own decentralized exchange, and I don't know what else they might be building. Something else is coming online, the Moonbound from Nacho. So definitely go down the this testnet and start testing. Put it to the limit, and see what's out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kaspador, thanks so much for coming to discuss and answer all these questions to the best of your ability. You really did help clarify a lot of topics, and just to stem even more questions, we could get some clarification from perhaps Kasplex, their own the devs there working, see if they could help clarify some things, and yeah, move from there.
This is just the beginning, man. This is just the beginning. This is the stepping stone for what is coming to Caspa, in my opinion. So this means that it's only, from my point of view, only up now, and I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about development. So there are, let's say, endless possibilities, and people will jump and will see once the dApps will be live and people will start using them, and they will start tweeting and start discussing among themselves, saying this dApp is doing this is doing that, and this is settling in 1 second, and this is a transaction costs like 1 penny, and this is the block confirmed this in 2 seconds, so on and so forth. People will definitely come. At least this is my expectation. So this is just the beginning, and thank you also so much for taking the time and inviting me to your podcast, if you want. And again, sorry for not being able to answer everything, but I'm here, and if there is something that I can help with, I will gladly do it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kaspador. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, this is just the start. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Enjoy your day, and thank you again for everything.
You too. Take care.
Be safe. Bye bye.
You heard it here first from Kaspador. Man, this is just the start. If you're not excited, woo, Kaspa, it's going to be the new hot chain. You already know it. Come check out this Kasplex Layer 2. Smart contracts finally coming to Kaspa. Let's get it. Peace out.